Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Intimacy Lab. Have you ever been with someone who walked away only to leave behind a silence that feels louder than any words? You moved on, or at least you tried, you went quiet, you didn't chase, you focused on yourself, and suddenly you start seeing signs. Subtle things. She watches your stories but never reaches out. She asks your friends how you're doing but won't say it to you. You hear that she brings you up in conversations, but always as if she's fine, and yet there's something in her eyes now. A softness, a pause, an energy shift. She's not saying it out loud, but something inside her has changed. You feel it. This video is not about blame. It's not about playing games or keeping score. It's about truth, emotional truth. It's about the regret she doesn't speak, but shows you in everything else, and if you're a man who's been emotionally dropped, misunderstood, or undervalued, you need to hear this. Because women don't always apologize with words, but they do show you their sorrow in ways most men miss. Today, I want to help you read between the lines, not to get her back, but to get your power back. Let's talk about the truth she won't tell you, but can't help showing. Are you ready? Let's begin. You know we rarely talk about the regret a woman carries after she lets a good man slip through her fingers. We assume men are the ones chasing closure, looking for signs, holding onto the hope that maybe, just maybe, she still cares. But what if I told you that more often than not, she does, not in the way you're used to, not in the direct, clear way that says, I made a mistake. Because for many women, especially the strong ones, admitting regret means admitting vulnerability. And for some, that feels like stripping off armor they've spent years learning to wear. So what does she do instead? She starts acting strangely quiet when you walk into a room, but you can feel the tension hang in the air like perfume that won't fade. She asks your mutual friends about you, not because she's nosy, but because something in her chest tightens when she doesn't know what you're up to. She watches you from a distance on social media, through memories, in dreams she'd never confess to having. And she tells herself she's fine, that she made the right choice, that she had her reasons, but her body language, her eyes, her sudden interest in things she never cared about before, they whisper something else entirely. Regret doesn't always look like tears or apologies. Sometimes it looks like silence. Like her trying to move on too quickly, posting pictures with half smiles, hoping to convince the world and herself that she's already healed. But healing and forgetting are not the same thing. And when a woman walks away from a man who made her feel deeply seen, deeply safe, a part of her always wonders if she left behind the one space where she was truly known. Men, let me tell you something important here. If you showed up with your honesty, your heart, your intentions, and she couldn't receive that love, that wasn't your failure, that was her threshold, her ceiling, her inability at that moment to meet the depth of what you offered. Some women are not ready for what they secretly crave, and when the noise dies down and the distractions fade, that truth begins to gnaw at them. Quietly, constantly, she won't call you, not yet, maybe not ever. Pride has its claws in her, but she'll start remembering the little things. The way you listened without judgment, the warmth in your voice when she felt lost, the stability you offered when her world felt chaotic. And now she's surrounded by men who talk but don't listen, who touch her body but never ask how her heart is doing, who call her beautiful but never make her feel safe. That's when regret starts to bloom like a bruise. Slow, tender, hidden, and you might ask, why doesn't she just say something? Why doesn't she reach out and tell me she was wrong? Because for many women, admitting they were wrong in love feels like admitting they weren't in control. And for someone who's had to learn to survive in a world that often punishes softness, that kind of vulnerability feels like walking into fire. She may even still blame you for not fighting harder, for letting her walk away, for not reading her mind. That blame, that's a defense mechanism. It protects her from facing the deeper truth that she sabotaged something real because she didn't know what to do with it. And here's where it gets really honest. Some women regret losing you not because they miss the relationship, but because they finally understand the man they had in front of them. It's not about wanting to relive the past. It's about the pain of knowing they weren't fully present for what was once a gift. You might not see her crying over you. You might not hear her say, "I still think about you," but the energy doesn't lie. The timing of her texts, the way she lingers on your profile, the way she brings you up in conversations that seemingly have nothing to do with you. All of it is her trying to feel close to you again, without having to face the shame of reaching out. And if you've been waiting for her to finally say the words, maybe you don't need to anymore. Maybe the real power is in recognizing what's already being said through her behavior. Maybe your strength isn't in getting her back, but in understanding that her regret is real, even if it's unspoken. You see, not all stories need closure with a conversation. Sometimes the closure is in your clarity. Sometimes the healing is in recognizing the signs and choosing not to chase them. But before you think we're done here, I want to bring you deeper. Because this isn't just about her regret, it's also about your healing, your self-worth, your future. Have you ever noticed how a woman will start mirroring the life she once imagined with you only after you're no longer part of it? She goes to the restaurant you introduced her to. She listens to the music you played on long drives. She starts reading the books you once told her shaped your life. It might look like coincidence, but love doesn't work in coincidences. It works in memory, in longing, in unspoken echoes, and sometimes the only way she knows how to stay connected to you is to imitate the world you created for her. This is a kind of mourning that few women will talk about, because they're not grieving a breakup. They're grieving the version of themselves that felt safe with you. The version that laughed a little louder, felt a little freer. That version only existed when she was near you. And now that she's gone, she feels the absence in quiet but powerful ways. She may tell others, "I'm fine. I needed to do this for me." And in some ways, that's true. We all need space to grow, to make mistakes, to find our own center. But personal growth doesn't cancel out emotional regret. Sometimes it deepens it, because once she starts healing and maturing, she begins to see more clearly. Not just who you were, but who she wasn't ready to be. You were stable and she wasn't. You were emotionally available and she was guarded. You were offering depth and she was swimming in shallow waters because it felt safer there. Now she begins to understand. And that's where the quiet ache lives. It's in the way she taps your post, but doesn't say a word. It's in the story she posts that seems just vague enough to be directed at no one, but you feel it. You feel her reaching. You feel her missing because she is, even if she doesn't know how to put it into words. Regret doesn't always come dressed in apology. It comes wrapped in hesitation, in those long delayed messages where she types and deletes, in the way her tone softens if you do speak again, in her sudden curiosity about your well-being, the gentle way she says you look good, as if she's proud of you but unsure if she's still allowed to feel that. And here's the truth many men don't realize: a woman's regret often lives alongside admiration. She might be hurting, but she'll still be rooting for you. She might know she lost something real, but it doesn't mean she wants to ruin it again by rushing back into your life. So what does she do? She watches from afar, silently. She tests the waters in tiny ways, likes, comments, casual conversations, just to see if the door is still cracked open. But she won't push it open, because in her mind, if you wanted her back, you'd say so, and in your mind, if she truly regretted it, she'd come clean. So the standoff continues, two people feeling everything, saying nothing, each waiting for the other to be brave first. But here's the quiet power I want you to understand today. Her regret doesn't need to be loud for you to honor it. You don't need to call her out or confront her or demand answers, because maturity teaches us that closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes closure is observation, and that's where your growth lies, in watching her show her sorrow without needing to fix it. Because the moment you stopped reaching out, she noticed. The moment you stopped offering your presence, she felt the void. And now you're not chasing, you're not explaining, you're simply existing in your wholeness, and that is the part she didn't see coming. There's something deeply magnetic about a man who no longer needs validation from the woman who couldn't value him when it mattered. That's when the tables turn, not out of revenge but out of evolution. You've evolved, she senses it. She feels the shift in your energy, and now she's left with the echo of her own decision. Does she miss you? Yes, does she think about you often? Does she regret how she left, more than she'll ever say out loud? But here's the part I want you to hold close. You're no longer the man who needs her to say it. You've reclaimed your power, not by proving her wrong, but by living your truth louder than her silence. And I know it still hurts. It's okay to say that. It still aches when you think about what could have been. But pain is not the enemy. Staying stuck in her silence is. So breathe into this next truth. Her regret does not require your response. Her signals don't need your interpretation. Her quiet remorse is hers to carry. You have other work to do now. Your life is asking for your full presence. Your purpose is pulling you forward. And somewhere out there, someone will thank God you didn't settle for being a memory someone else couldn't hold on to. But before we move ahead, let's go even deeper into what this kind of hidden regret actually feels like for her, and how it shows up in her behavior in ways most men completely overlook. When a woman regrets losing you, it doesn't show up like a grand confession under the stars. It doesn't come with violins or the words you've longed to hear. I was wrong, you were right, I miss us. That kind of honesty is rare, because for many women, especially those who are emotionally proud, the weight of regret gets buried under performance. She'll act unbothered, she'll show up in new clothes, laugh loudly, maybe even flaunt someone new. But if you pay attention, you'll notice a dissonance in her joy. It feels just a little too staged. The laughter lasts half a second too long. The sparkle in her eye is there, but it's thin, like it's painted on top of something raw underneath. That's the thing about real connection. Once it's been felt, it leaves a fingerprint on the soul. You can try to cover it up. You can distract yourself, but you can't unfeel it. And the man she lost, the one who listened deeply, loved patiently, showed up consistently, that man doesn't get replaced. He gets remembered over and over in quiet moments and in unexpected triggers. She's on a date, and the guy across the table says something slightly condescending. She flashes back to how you always made her feel smart. She's walking alone, and a certain song plays in a cafe. Her chest tightens, and she doesn't know why. It's because that song lived in your car during those Sunday drives when everything felt weightless. Regret hides in these moments, and when she runs into you, or sees you in passing even digitally, you'll notice something different. She doesn't look at you directly, or she looks a little too long. She fidgets, her words are careful. There's a tension she can't name, and it's not anger or blame anymore. It's something closer to shame. Because somewhere inside her, she knows she had something rare, and she didn't know how to hold it. Now, here's what's fascinating about female psychology. Many women aren't socialized to grieve a relationship lost directly. They're taught to be strong, move on, find better. So what happens? They grieve sideways. They grieve by jumping into something new. They grieve by overcompensating, suddenly starting new habits, reinventing themselves, going on self-love journeys not because they're whole, but because they're hollow and trying to refill something that you once poured into. And if she's being honest, if she lets herself feel fully, she might begin to realize that it wasn't about losing a boyfriend or a man. It was about losing the one person who saw her before she was ready to be seen. That's a haunting kind of loss, because once a woman is seen emotionally, spiritually, gently, by a man who doesn't just want her body, but wants her truth, it's nearly impossible to forget that feeling. And it becomes painfully obvious how rare it is. You'll see her express that regret through new interest in healing, therapy, self-development. She may post quotes about losing a good one, about timing, about learning the hard way. These are all coded messages. She won't say your name, but you'll feel it, not because she wants to manipulate you, not because she's playing games, but because the emotional vocabulary to say it directly has failed her, and so she paints around the wound, hoping you still notice the outline. And maybe you do, but I want to ask you something more important than, does she regret it? I want to ask you, what are you doing with that knowledge? Because if you're standing still waiting for her to come back, hoping her guilt turns into action, you're still giving your emotional power away. Regret is not a reason to pause your life, and understanding her feelings doesn't mean you're responsible for fixing them. This is where many men get stuck. They confuse her regret with an invitation, but just because she feels the loss doesn't mean she's ready to love you better now. A woman can ache for you and still not be ready for you. A woman can remember you and still not know how to rebuild with you. A woman can regret what she did and still lack the tools to do it differently, and that's where your discernment matters more than your desire. Because I know, as a man, you long for clarity. You want to know, was I enough? Did I matter? Was it real? And I'm telling you right now, yes, you did, it was, but closure won't always come from her lips. Sometimes it comes from her eyes, from the softness in her voice, from the subtle shift in how she looks at you now. Not with contempt, but with reverence. Like she sees you differently, like she finally understands what she lost, and maybe you smile, maybe you nod. Maybe you walk away, not because you don't feel, but because you finally know. Her regret is not your responsibility. Her regret is her teacher, just like your heartbreak was yours. Now we're almost there, but there's one more layer I want to open up with you. Let's go even deeper into this space, not just about her, but about you. There comes a moment in every man's journey when he stops asking if she regrets it and starts asking what it all taught him. Because you see, regret, hers or yours, isn't just a feeling, it's a mirror. It shows us who we were, what we settled for, what we gave, and what we lost trying to hold on to love. And sometimes it shows us the version of ourselves we were never meant to stay. If you truly saw her, loved her, showed up for her, and she couldn't meet you there, it wasn't just about compatibility. It was about emotional maturity, timing, readiness, and those aren't things you can force into place with enough effort. They either meet you or they don't, and when they don't, your soul starts to whisper, even before your mind catches up, it's time to let go. But letting go doesn't mean you didn't love her. It doesn't mean you stopped remembering her laugh, the curve of her neck, or the way she looked at you when she thought you were the only man who could calm her storms. It simply means you stop shrinking yourself to be reaccepted by someone who once walked away from your depth. And that's the part we don't say enough to men. You can grieve her and still grow. You can miss her and still move. You can honor what you had and still refuse to go back to a version of yourself that tolerated emotional confusion. Now let's talk about you, because while she's sitting with her unspoken sorrow, you're entering a season of self-clarity. You're starting to realize that your love is not just valuable, it's sacred, that your emotional availability is not a weakness, it's your greatest strength. That the way you held her heart, even when hers was unsure, speaks to a man of courage, and that, my friend, is rare. Women regret losing men like that, but men like that must learn not to lose themselves. Don't abandon your softness. Don't question your worth just because someone wasn't ready. Don't close your heart simply because it was mishandled. Let her regret be hers to wrestle with, and let your future be built from wisdom, not walls. And here's something else I want you to carry with you. Her regret might linger. It might even turn into late-night messages, soft check-ins, invitations disguised as innocent hellos. But you will know now that attention is not the same as effort, that a second chance doesn't always mean a better outcome, that your peace is more precious than her remorse, because the truth is you're not the same man anymore. You've outgrown the emotional gray zones. You've stopped accepting confusion as a form of connection. You've realized that clarity is love's greatest language, and if she ever does reach out, if the apology finally comes, or if the longing turns into boldness, you'll meet her from a different place. Not bitter, not angry, but wise, grounded, whole. You'll look at her, and you'll see everything. The past, the beauty, the pain, the mistakes, the magic. But you won't be pulled backward, because you'll know the man you've become was never meant to beg to be seen. You were always meant to be chosen freely, fully, without hesitation, so if she shows regret in all the ways we've explored, through silence, signals, sorrow, or softness, you can hold space for it. But you don't need to hold space for her. She had her chance, she made her choice, and your healing is not dependent on her change. Your healing is yours. You've learned what kind of love you give. You've learned how deep you feel. You've learned that your presence is not replaceable, and now you have the sacred responsibility to protect that version of you. Because somewhere down the road, maybe months from now, maybe years, there will be a woman who meets you with the same depth, who doesn't flinch when you're vulnerable, who doesn't run when love gets real. She will recognize you, not as someone she can mold or fix, but as someone she wants to meet. And she'll stay. So let her regret you, that's hers. Let her miss you, that's her journey. But don't you dare pause your life for a chapter that's already been written. Turn the page. You are not the man she left. You are the man you chose to become, and I promise you that man. He is already loved, even if she never finds the words to say it. If this spoke to your heart, share your thoughts below. I read every comment. And if you're healing, if you're growing, if you're walking through your own quiet transformation, you're not alone. Like this video if it resonated. Subscribe if you want more honest conversations like this. This is the Intimacy Lab, and you, my friend, are exactly where you need to be.